We're going to go on to another story. The face of Judaism in America is changing. According to 2004 research from Bihal Lashon, a Jewish research and advocacy group, the Jewish community is more diverse than many would assume. 20% of America's 6 million Jews, or 1,200,000, are of mixed heritage that includes African American, Latino, Hispanic, and Asian ethnicities, among others. To share their own stories of growing up as Jewish people of color is Rabbi Funnye, and he is with us via Skype from Chicago, and here in our New York City studio is journalist Simone Weichselbaum. And thank you to both of you for being here. I appreciate it. Let me start with you, Simone. You are of mixed heritage as well as being Jewish. Your father is German and Jewish. Your mother is British, I believe, but of Jamaican descent.
Yes,
okay. What was it like for you to grow up both being mixed race in a country where that's sometimes unusual, and then being a person of color who is Jewish? Did you run into challenges on those fronts?
Of course, almost in daily life, but I feel very lucky because I grew up in New York, in Brooklyn, which is itself already a melting pot of many cultures. So growing up in New York City versus growing up, let's say, in the Midwest, it's a very different experience. It's a more welcoming experience, but of course you run into confrontation all the time. As you guys know, being of color, there's many nuances. So for example, in New York, being a proud Jamaican, it's a lot different culture than African American. So actually, I didn't have African American friends and knew a lot about even our history until I went to college.
But when you tell your friends that you're of Jewish descent, what do they say?
It's pretty obvious. If you know, like, the way I act and talk with our hands, that's a very Jewish thing. I can't hide it if I tried.
Even if you tried.
Yes, I'm more of a yenta, if you've heard of that term before.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, I've heard of that. In the research on you, I read that you don't choose. That, you know, a lot of people of mixed race, even our president talks about his journey, and he made a choice to identify himself as African American. You don't like to choose. Why not?
Well, I feel being biracial is it's an honor. It's really awesome, and I personally don't understand, and I'm not going to get into my own politics, but I'll just say I don't understand why people still choose. It's 2013. It is not the 60s or 70s anymore when the world's in a different place. A lot of my friends are biracial, and I think it's awesome to be two things. I always joke that I make fun of my friends who are either white or just black, that you're a pedigree, but I'm cooler because I'm two things.
But sometimes that decision is often made for you because people put you in a category based on what they see, based on their own assumptions of who they think you are.
Of course, and people continually put me in a category every day, and it's, I think, the individual's choice to say, hey, I'm not this or I'm not that. If you decide, you know what, for whatever reason, I do want to stick with being African American or just being identified with being Jewish, that is your own personal journey. I'm very lucky to have two parents who, from the day I was born, was like, you're biracial. They always push that. And in my family, we embrace both heritages. Some kids, like people I know from college, for example, didn't grow up with their black mom or their white mom, so they usually gravitate towards, the family that raised them. So.
I want to bring in Rabbi Funnye, who has been standing by very patiently via Skype. Rabbi, your story is a little bit different. You were not born into Judaism. You studied a number of faiths and then converted to Judaism. Talk about your journey to this faith.
My journey to Judaism was one that was simply, I was compelled, I was searching. I was on a spiritual journey. And as I searched, I found Judaism. And in so finding Judaism, I found a wellspring of not only knowledge. One of the things that was most important to me was that in Judaism, it always encourages the questioning. You may not, in fact, find all the answers, but it is okay to question, and I love that. It allowed me to synthesize my intellectual capacity with my spiritual being. And so Judaism has been a home for myself and my family for several decades now.
And you're the spiritual leader there of a quite diverse congregation there. Can you sort of talk to us about how Judaism is emerging in new fronts?
It is emerging in several ways. Our congregation is made up of Latino Jews, B'nai Anusim, the hidden ones from Mexico, wow. Who several of their families were forced to convert to Catholicism during the time of the Inquisition. We have white Jews in our congregation who've adopted African American children and wanted their children to be a part of a Jewish community where the majority of the membership looked like them. We have biracial Jews in our congregation as well as Jews from Asia. So our congregation is I think, a dichotomy of what the Jewish people really looks like, and that is many, many faces. And that's why my work with B'Kol Lashon, in every tongue, really speaks to the true nature of what the Jewish people look like.
Wow, that is amazing. I want to bring you back in, Simone, particularly in Brooklyn. And it's not just Brooklyn, but there has been a history of tension between the African American community and the Jewish community. And I just wonder where you found yourself. Did you feel that tension?
I actually grew up in Crown Heights, and I was there during the riots. And my father, who does not look like a Hasidic Jew, he wears cowboy boots and jeans, was on the bus when the riots were breaking. And he tells a story. They went on the bus and were ranting, kill a Jew, but left him alone because he dresses like in jeans and cowboy boots. And so to them, they didn't identify that as being Hasidic Jew. But fast forwarding to the present moment, I'm very lucky to be a journalist and covering sort of Crown Heights 20 years later after that. And a lot has changed. So we need to move forward, I feel.
Oh, and very well said. We would like to thank Rabbi Funnye joining us via Skype, and thank you to you, Simone, for telling your story.